So this is Digital Nexus episode 29, isn't it, Chris? What's going on?
Is it? Oh my god. We're almost at 30. The big 3-0.
I know. What happened when you turned 30? How wild was that?
It wasn't that wild. That was pretty. I'm not a self-party influence type person. I'm like, turn 30, let's go have some beers at the pub with a couple of close friends.
Yes, that you did.
I'm pretty sure we knew each other when we go way back into our
2012.
20s. Probably late 20s, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. Like whatever that is, late 20s.
Whatever that is. How's your week been? Tell me about what's going on. Have we officially started? Is this kicking off?
Yeah, it's kicking off.
Kicking off.
Week's been good. We had our AusDeFi event on the, what do you call it?
I went up in front of everyone for the first time. I'm usually the guy in the background hiding away, going, I'm recording all these podcasts.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to bring it up on screen here so that the lovely people can see it. But like, it was a rare moment that Chris is actually up on screen.
Did you actually take a recording or a picture of me?
Yeah.
I got lost for a moment when I stood up in front of the crowd because I'm obviously sitting in the background doing a lot of the recordings, and when I'm transitioning. Oh, great face there! And I'm transitioning between the slides and the cameras, in the presentation format, and I had realized just as I went to stand up and talk to everyone that I hadn't press the button to show my slide for people who are streaming or in the recording. So you're up there and I'm presenting something that's on screen, but no one else can see it. None of the people who are on the stream, everyone, as you're seeing now, I'm talking to something, no one can see it. And so my brain was saying to myself, oh no, I haven't transitioned. And I'm like, oh no, I've forgotten what I need to say in front of everyone in the crowd. So I got a little tongue twisted as I was, my brain was, ADHD multitasking.
Yeah, men can multitask. That is true, but it was good. We'll throw the QR code up because you had something really important, especially for the people here. We'll show that later, which is the masterclass that you're doing. So anyone that's into the UX UI stuff, and then also as part of I think last month, well, it's not even last month, it's the same month, in April, we did 2 events at the start of the month and at the end, which is rare. But we did Studio Ghibli for all the different speakers. This time it's these, I don't even know what these capsule characters are.
Ushis, because it reminds me of like this little Ushi things you can get from, I don't know, Woolies had the Ushi series where you could collect all the different Marvel characters. My daughter's obsessed with those little toys. And so I've called them little Ushis. That's what I've been calling. Yeah.
Let's call it that. That's exactly what it is. So the little Ushis, there's little Chris with his little legs, and there's Mark, because I'm definitely taller than you in real life.
I showed it to my wife, and she was like, everyone else looks like an adult. You look like a child. Why do you still look like a child? Like, I don't know.
Specifically put in the prompt man boy. So yeah.
And I've got like little eyes, I guess, with my sort of Estonian or like Eastern European appearance. And my wife just looked at it and she's like, oh, I forgot you have blue eyes. I'm like, oh, thanks, babe. This doesn't even realize that I have the bright blue eyes. Just whatever.
That's okay.
How long have we been together?
Yeah. The AI can help you with the counseling that you're going to need after this. So that's okay.
That's right.
So episode 29, I guess, actually, before we get into it, like, what else have you been up to yourself?
Well, I mean, you kind of hinted at it. So one of the big things, of a couple of things we're working on, are 2 big startups that I'm trying to kick off. Really excited. I've just been able to partner with a dev guy to help bring one of our virtual AI tools that we're building to life. So we're going to rapidly go into MVP development, hopefully get it in front of a bunch of customers, and using a lot of AI and agents to fast track and bring everything to life. So I'm pretty excited about that. And I think what I'll start doing, just like you have been doing, a bit of like an entrepreneurial founder kind of sharing of journey across social media over the next few months and beyond. And in a similar vein, I don't like to do things one at a time, just like yourself, doubling up and doing things in the startup and entrepreneurial way. I'm also kicking off I've started to put together the framework for a masterclass with a very, very smart UX colleague, friend friend and business partner, Matt Barry. So him and I are building a masterclass specifically around UX, but also looking at how AI applies to that, the work that you do. Because we know in the product space, in the design space, in the content space even, AI is rapidly taking over how you do things and the processes that you go through to develop things. And there's not a lot of talk particularly in the UX space, around how that applies to people in our specialty. So we're creating a masterclass series which will help level up the skill set of those people within the product, within the UX, within even the design space. Level up your skills from a traditional UX space, but also how can AI support and elevate the work that you're doing in there. So I'm going to take over your screen quickly,
Sure.
because we're doing things a little bit differently here today.
We are
Not in
online.
person, which is my fault. Let me show this. You can see here.
It's easy.
So this is a bit of an early sign-up page, as we're going through the proper processes of building the startup up, and we're building out awareness and starting to share content and share ideas and get validation of it. So we're looking to unlock that AI-driven masterclass. It's coming soon. We're upgrading UX skills, getting AI smart fast, and shipping ideas 3 times quicker. I've probably put 10 times quicker now with the way that we're going to be doing things. But there's going to be value-driven content. We're going to have a one-to-one mentoring with people with this processes. We're going to provide a lot of assets and even free tools to help them. Tools being AI tools, right? It's like signups to special tools, whether it's things like Claude or OpenAI. We'll have some special content for that. And even have given the ability to do a lot of rapid prototyping and coding with vibe coding, and even partnering with people like yourself to help train people on how they can, code better to create prototypes in a more meaningful way. And like Mark, you've had a lot of experience in that, so I'm pretty excited to work with you on that piece of the puzzle as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be really cool getting to see, the real problems that people are facing when it comes to these tools, because they're rapidly progressing, and every day, every week, there's something new to try out. It does mean, though, that that can be the daunting thing, but the positive thing about all of that is that it's just getting easier to do things, like things that were impossible. Or they just would have taken a whole lot of time before to do. So you put it in the basket of, I can't really touch that unless we're actually going to get something out of it. Well, now it's possible. Like, who knew that I would be creating and tweaking and modifying various kind of websites and adding in AI elements to it, and building out stuff for clients. Like, that would not have been, I come from an analytics and statistics background, so that's fine. I'll use SQL, I'll use Python, I'll do some analytics and visualizations. But when it comes to HTML, take me back to uni days in the early 2000s. I don't do that kind of stuff, but now you can, because
that said, the skill set that you built up with building up your SQL and other data sets to be able to do a lot of that foundational work in, whether it's finance, accounting, etc., whatever the data sets that you're manipulating, are a really strong foundation to be able to understand how you can do a lot of the basic coding that you're looking at, because it kind of puts you in that out of the box thinking around, how do I solve this problem, utilizing a language that I don't really, I don't use on a day-to-day basis. Exactly. that is a really powerful skill that you've been able to build up that helps you with a lot of this. And that's why I think it's going to be even more important for you to share that out with people around how they can think in that way to be able to do things with a tool set or with a code base that they traditionally probably wouldn't understand.
Absolutely. And I think it's really important that, you said it before about like getting stuff out there to, you're going to MVP really quickly and get stuff out there to market. And it'll be the topic, the main part of the weekly blog that I do, because there's this guy that I follow, and I'll just share my screen here quickly and we'll get to the news. But if folks don't know Internet of Bugs, definitely worthwhile watching his content. Talks about a whole lot of things in the software development space. We'll talk about AI, from a very pragmatic point of view, not overhype and overselling, like recognizes that there is, usefulness there. But as we know, there has been a lot of overhype. Like, it's not the thing that's going to just do everything. But anyway, he talks in
At
this.
least not yet, anyway.
Not yet, but he talks about the practicality of well, people that they just tinker and tinker, and then they don't get stuff in front of customers. And the problem with that is that you could head down a path. It's this concept of like people always think that in writing spaces that they're going to write the next great American novel, the next Catcher in the Rye or the next To Kill a Mockingbird, that kind of thing. And unless you're actually getting it in front of people and getting that feedback and getting punched in the face, as Mike Tyson's quote puts it, it's not the right thing. So at the very best, like you would even just get an idea, nothing more built, but just seeing if an idea is there. But sometimes you've got to balance it with actually building, like you guys are doing, an MVP so people can actually picture it. But really great video. I'm going to dive into more of that in my weekly newsletter that'll go out later. It's Friday, but this will go out like later today, so people are probably seeing this and this is already passed. But still,
it's a really important thing that you're highlighting there, is that getting it in front of people. It's like and the process that we're going down now with a lot of the startups, these businesses that we're trying to build, is it's not always even trying to build something straight away, but it's even getting that concept and that thinking out there. It's like get that framework set and start putting that framework in front of people to validate it, whether it's on social media, whether it's creating a landing page, as I saw, and getting some early phase startups while you're building things, like putting even just the concept in front of some people to get validation and feedback, going, hey guys, this is coming soon. Is this something you'd be interested in looking at, or would you support me on this journey? That feedback alone can be so valuable for a business and getting you that jump start when you build the product. Because like I said, if you just build the product and then it sits there and you haven't thought about how you're going to get into the hands of people, you've wasted time, you've wasted effort, and potentially wasted a great idea that could be in the hands of people out there. Or, vice versa, it could be a terrible idea and you should be pivoting very, very quickly.
But you need to find out soon, and that's the point. And
exactly.
so
Exactly
there'll be cool stuff like that. And building in the open and showcasing what we're creating, and I'll showcase a bit more and stuff later on. But shall we get to the news? Did you want to who starts first? I've got a whole bunch of tabs to come through.
Mate, you have the screen share up and running, so let's kick it off with yourself. What have we got?
Alrighty. So the first one is, speaking of pirates, pirate radio. No, it's not pirate radio, but I don't know if you saw this, but there was a maybe I don't have let's do Cicada Radio AI. Let's do a search for this, because this new radio announcer for a national radio station was not real. So not real.
Here we go.
It's
this is going back to the stories of people creating these AI personas, putting out there and fooling people, or unless that they were open about it, or this is like a
they're now, but they modeled it off 11 Labs. It was modeled after a real employee, so they used a real person's voice, but not one of the presenters. And they said that it sparked conversations about transparency and the role of AI in the media. We've seen movie studios do this, where they say that this section of this Marvel movie it is AI generated, or even advertisements that big brands have done which were AI generated. Hopefully not like a Will Smith eating spaghetti type thing, but no one knew that this one was, I think it was for 6 months or so, that it was an AI generated voice. But pretty amazing. I mean, I've even done stuff where using 11 Labs, I got it to clone my voice. I didn't think it sounded that much like me, but when I did it and I had a transcript create a video and I had like a screen share and stuff like that, people actually thought it was me, which was funny because I could tell the difference, but others couldn't. They just thought I was being a bit more formal because it made the Aussie voice sound a bit more English. But I thought this one was interesting.
That said, even when you record your voice normally and you play it back through through the speakers, you always, how you get that feeling like, oh, I sound weird, like I don't sound like I usually would sound. You feel like you sound different anyway, and that's
I feel like I can, like, the voice, just from what we record and what we watch back on like the Digital Nexus thing, I see that, and I that's what I hear. I understand that one, but this one, to me, I can tell the difference between what 11 Labs was doing, but that was months ago. So it could have updated now.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. Interesting. Next one was it's all about trust, and it's not often that you have news.com.au. So this is like our local national news for I would say, just for the ordinary folk, like the financial news has the Australian Financial Review and like the business sections of papers. This one's for more of the everyday Australian. So it's not often that you get an AI report, but it's this talk about like falling behind. New report reveals big wake up call, big headline kind of stuff. And the report says things like the trust that we have in AI, it's not high. Basically, I think it was like 36% of Australians trust AI, and it's the lowest amongst 47 countries.
I was going to say Australia has one of the, and I think that has that trend. We've talked about this before. It's very representative of our general mindset within business, in particular. We're a very risk averse culture within organizations, particularly medium to large. Like we tend to sway away from utilizing new trends or new tools out of whether it's security, whether it's culture, whether it's risk, whatever it is. We're usually in that lower percentage. It's interesting.
And look at this, only 24% had said that they had formal or informal training in AI, compared to almost 2 in 5 globally. So about 40% globally reckon that they've had some sort of training. And you see things like in China that they're going to mandate it through schools, from primary to secondary and tertiary. And then also, whilst that's being said, Adelaide University, which has just gone through a merger, they're mandating that all students have to take AI courses in 2026. So coming up soon. Can't believe it.
Is that an Adelaide government or Adelaide University? You said
Adelaide University.
Adelaide University, right.
Yeah. So that's interesting. That there are some pockets of these mandates and push. We've got our friend at Macquarie University, the head of AI there, Phil Laufenberg, who's from the blockchain and also AI communities, and he's that the fact that they have a role that is like head of AI speaks volumes as to the push forward. And you see what the other unis are trying to do as well. I just hope that we see more of this innovation, because this is too low. The education stuff, it's massively missing a trick, and so there's more that needs to be done there. So
I mean, if you look at what's happening, you mentioned what's happening in China, particularly out of places like Hong Kong. So China will integrate artificial intelligence applications into teaching efforts, textbooks, and the school curriculum moving forward. So what they've said is that they want to cultivate the basic abilities of teaching teachers and students, and shape the core competitiveness and innovative talents, both in the country and then globally. So, I mean, you're seeing some people in the States moving this way, and they're trying to integrate some stuff. I think some movements in San Fran and California, or California in general, they're putting some processes in place to start doing that. But you're getting a lot of resistance in a lot of other areas where there's more, traditional right wing. I always get the wrong ways of thinking in other states as well. So it's interesting, where they're going to lie on that. Within that movement, given some of the stuff that the rest of the world is doing, China in particular, because they are, with DeepSeek in particular and other elements, we'll talk about that in a moment, they're really accelerating what is possible from an open source perspective. And even with some of their other businesses like Alibaba, who are really trying to step up their game in the AI space, there's a lot of competition coming out of Asia that's going to really, set America back if they don't start thinking more, future forward in terms of what's happening in the AI space. That said, Trump is putting some further initiatives and some further, I would say, investment into that. I don't know I think you had something to say about that as well.
Yep. The executive orders that he signed so far. So you've got the Guardian article here, and as we go, you can see some of the stuff there, but just highlights. He signed an executive order aimed at removing regulatory barriers to AI development, asserting that the need for AI systems free from, let's call it, ideological bias. So former PayPal exec David Sachs, who's famous for the investment stuff that he's done, but a lot of people know him from the All In podcast. He's been appointed to lead a group tasked with developing an AI action plan. So you can see here a little bit more about that in the article. Just various things that are being done in the administration, from reversing course on tariffs to a whole heap of other stuff going on there. So these are all the executive orders that have been signed so far. It's there's a ton. and I don't know why this pop-up is coming up. Gotta love a website when it just works, right?
Yeah, love the old ads.
But
It's
yeah,
interesting. It's interesting in regards to this, particularly with the tariffs in play and everything going on. And uh, Mr. Head of Doge, our Tesla, Mr. Musk, has been, he was supposed to be running quite a lot of the initiatives with Doge, and now that's been sort of pushed back as they put more focus into, the people, and I would say business, than what Musk was a little bit was pulling away a lot of the attention of where it needed to be. He's having to step back into the Tesla role right now, but even then, the board of directors at Tesla are thinking about how they can push him out because of how he's been acting and his focuses over the last year, I would say. We've got Grok that he's trying to build out, which is getting some good leeway. And yeah, so it's an interesting time for AI and business in the States, particularly with other competition, as we're talking about coming out of China. So
yeah.
I'm interested to see what's going to happen next, but I'm also a bit like fearful of what's going to happen next, given this craziness that is evolving out of the world politically, not just in AI.
Speaking of fear, this headline came out last week, which is that from Pew Research, so the Pew Research Center, they highlighted that 50% of Americans say AI will have a very or somewhat negative impact on news. And so some of the things that were highlighted, there's obviously concerns about potential job losses in journalism and the spread of misinformation, but then also 66% of respondents were concerned about hallucinations, so where it's getting it wrong. And as people that are technical in the space, to explain it to those that don't know, just talking directly to a model, unless it actually shows you that it's come from these links, and even then, just showing you the links is not enough. You've actually got to click on it just to make sure and validate that some of the points, not some of the points, depending on what it is you want to do. Maybe it's just for skimming research and you just want to see it's actually pulling stuff from various articles. And then there's ones where it's your job is on the line. So you need to be able to, properly read it. And if you've got a whole kind of supply chain process of information, you want to make sure that, and we've got this with tools that we do, where people actually have to sign off with digital kind of signatures, like a DocuSign within a workflow process, to say that, yes, I have read this output, even though I'm using AI, because the only way to prove things, there is no foolproof way of going, oh, the AI is like completely accurate. But it's the same thing as humans. This is the thing. People are thinking this is just a fail proof, never, it's misinformation.
Those tactics, the tactics of misinformation have been going on for ages. I mean, think about how political parties manipulate data and insights. Think about how people lie to gain political gain. Think about what Facebook had been going through prior to AI. All of these lies and fake information, like incorrect information, have been floating around for forever. So hallucinations, I guess, is just another little drop in that confusing mud of a mess.
And to the point that you're saying there, that's what I'm trying to get to. It's that people think of like the generative AI tools as just something that it's always going to get things right. Like it'll be probably more accurate than humans, like 99.9% or something like that, depending on what it's going to do. But the thing is, you've got to think about it not as, in part ways it's a tool, but in other ways it's a colleague, and you're going to check your colleague's work. It's a subordinate that is there to work for you. You have to check its work. But why should I check its work? Well, if it used to take 50 minutes for you to do something, but now you can get 10 times the output within, say, only 5 minutes, and all you've got to do is just check the work and agree and maybe make tweaks, becoming more of an editor, that saves so much time. I can't believe that people still push back and think that that's not like a good outcome and stuff.
I agree that it will be a good outcome, but I still think that I agree that there are fears around. I can understand why there are fears around people's jobs, particularly in the journalist space. Like traditional journalism has always been around going out there, getting into the dirt of things and presenting it back to the people. And with the rise of AI, a lot of that will shift. Like the idea of a journalist will pretty much become almost content managers, because they will be, you could almost have an AI tool in the interview process, collecting information, talking to talking to one of the advisors in a political standpoint, or they're gathering information, and then it's creating the article automatically with agents, and then it's just someone validating it, as you said, that it's all correct. Like that could very easily become the future of a journalist. And there'll be little bits of pieces where you can't really replace the human element, where it's actually someone having to go out there and go to unique places to find insights and information, be on the ground in a war scenario, or going out to find to see what's happening in public because someone's done something and they're trying to interview them in those senses. So there'll be the need or the job description of a journalist will shrink and change rapidly as AI does start to take over a lot of those roles. So I can understand where the pushback is, but at the same time, I completely agree. If the argument is around accuracy, my God, that has been, if anything, I think it might improve the accuracy, because it'll start to be able to identify, hey, this is fake. Like, whereas previously we didn't have that. It had to be a human, and you can't trust humans to do that properly.
Well, yeah, I mean, but just saying on that note, and I think we're going a bit back and forth and stuff.
We are.
But this is not saying, we're not saying that humans are completely out of the loop, because the ultimate arbiter, you have to have humans in the loop with this kind of stuff. So whilst they might be more accurate, they still have to be approved if we're really going to trust. Like, we have to place trust in a human kind of process and stuff to this. But the full article and
I think
stuff,
in journalism that'll be very hard, just because you can't trust journalists anyway.
Yeah,
taking the dark side of the things, which is why I say I reckon from a business perspective, I completely agree. I think on a journalist perspective, it's going to be funny. I think it'll actually put more trust in it if AI starts taking it over, and I mean this in a very sarcastic sense.
Yeah, but hang on a second, just to finish off on that point there. I think that there's still going to be, it'll be a balance of things. It's not going to sway one way or the other, that, okay, we're going to get rid of all these jobs. But just like everything that has been a tech revolution, right? Like, we don't work and plow the fields anymore. Things evolve. We don't have as many people that are in the industry of transport to do with horses, because cars came around, things evolved. And just like with any kind of industry and job role, yeah, we'll still have journalism and the role will evolve, but it will also probably create, like, there might be fewer of a certain type of role, like the full, from scratch, just like journalists doing everything without like AI. But it will evolve into newer roles that utilize technology. So I think it's not that, the industry is going to go away and stuff. It may not happen, right? There's so many people still working in banks. It's just that we don't have certain types of roles. They evolve, and we don't even know yet what kind of roles there will be in future, but we can just imagine. So that's it from me on this one, but really interesting. I just put it up here that you can see the full research here if people want to dive into it.
It's got some interesting things that are hitting the market, or have hit the market over the last week. Coming soon, Perplexity announced that they are doing a new agentic search browser. So that'll be competing with the likes of good old Chrome and Firefox, and people out there who are Brave users, and Opera and all the other ones. There's another browser entering the atmosphere. Pun intended. So so with I'm a big Perplexity user, particularly from a search perspective and research perspective. So it'll be very interesting to see what these guys are going to be doing in that space. I've done I've joined the wait list. It's not out yet, so keen to see what's coming there. So keep an eye on that one. Google had a few big announcements over the last couple of weeks. You can now, this one's actually not available to everyone yet. I've seen this as mainly being in a beta sense, but you'll be able to start editing photos directly into the Gemini app, which is kind of cool. Previously, I don't know if you've ever used the photo app for Google, Mark. Kind of here and there. I use it every now and then. I'm a bit more of a Lightroom user myself for editing my images. But
do you mean within the phone, or do you mean
within the phone, the Google Photos app? So there's obviously Gemini is integrated in that, and there's a lot of AI tools and just general photo editing, and they can do some really cool things to make your photos look amazing without having to jump into any professional tools. But now what you're going to be able to do, or what they're coming soon to be able to do, is actually drop your photo into the Gemini, into the LLM, and you can, just like you would use the OpenAI, you could chat to the tool and say, hey, could you add this, or can you change this background, or can you add a bokeh effect, or make me smile in this photo, which is very interesting. It's stuff you can kind of do in OpenAI, But I think Google in itself has a very, very rich experience with photos. So hopefully that tool will be a little bit more powerful in what it's able to come to the market with. Google is now going to be showing some ads in their chats with some of the third-party AI chatbots. So if you've seen any of the chat tools that they use, they're going to start rolling out ads. I don't know if it's going to be official on sticking around for long term, but I think they're running a trial on just to see what happens. So for example, you may see some ads popping up in Gemini in the AI apps, which I'm kind of against. I hope they don't do this. You see it pop up a little bit in Perplexity now, but mainly because they are managing themselves in that sort of search environment, a very e-com focused. But so Google's going to start testing that soon as well. Kind of reminds me of,
I guess,
of that. That dark show on Netflix.
Black Mirror.
Black Mirror, that's the one where you start having like new tiers of registration, of sign up. So enter our no ad tier for using this LLM. God.
Yeah, that was a weird episode where the person basically, not to give it away too much, but they, because their brain was damaged, head injury and stuff, AI, I guess AI plus wireless technology, because they have to be near the Wi-Fi, helps to keep them alive.
They had their mind stored onto an external server, which then fed that information live to their brain, so their brain would operate in a remote format. So they needed to connect to devices to make sure that they could function and walk around. And obviously there started to be a tier system around what you can access, and that's as far as I'll tell the story, because the rest of it gets...
You know what? It kind of makes sense, because I don't know what the numbers are, but just thinking subjectively, there's not that many people that you would know just from day to day that have, unfortunately, traumatic head injuries, and knock on wood for the folks that do have that, and you hope that there are services that can help them. But the fact that in that thing that they had to increase the prices, maybe it's because there's just not a big kind of business out there for that kind of stuff, So
yeah, that's
in any case, giveaways, we don't want to do too much of that. But yeah, it definitely has that vibe to it.
We look what Amazon Prime did, right? With the Prime, you have to level up to get rid of ads. God, that frustrated a lot of people. But they're making billion-dollar shows, so they got to pay for it somehow, right?
Yeah, I'm happy though with YouTube to pay for the ability to.
Oh yeah,
it's not just to get rid of ads, but it's also that you can download videos, and
you can listen to them without having to, with your phone locked as well. That's I like that. Yeah, I agree with that. I was not too worried about that one.
Yeah, so give me the features.
Sticking in the Google topic, Gemini is pretty cool for our coders out there. I don't know if you've ever played with Google Studio, with their AI Studio, and tinkered with editing with Gemini, particularly 2.5 Pro. Very, very, very good at coding. I would say with what's coming next, probably going to be the second best at the moment, arguably, for coding. But they are releasing finally a GitHub app for coders, so you'll be able to jump into GitHub and link up your Gemini 2.5 Pro and start coding and editing your stuff within GitHub. So that's a pretty awesome little application feature there that is going to be coming out. So it's going to be able to help with better understanding the code base, answer any questions around specific codes and functions, suggest code additions and improvement, even debug issues, which a lot of other tools are currently doing within their applications and services. You look at what you can do currently in things like Bolt and VO, and even like things like Lovable, etc., which are more UX style tools. You can interrogate and code, but this is for people who are primarily using traditional ways of working with code bases, putting stuff in their GitHub repositories, and now they can add application layers on it to start interrogating and working with it as well, which is a pretty cool tool that's going to be coming soon. And on the topic of coding, did anyone see the 3.7 update? Good old Sonnet had a huge, interesting thing that I have yet to be able to test, but I think it's definitely something that's worth talking about. They're shifting focus with the latest update, which I think is great. So we've got OpenAI has done a lot of updates with 4.5, and even with going back to 03, a lot of focus on deep research, and really good outcomes that you can utilize in your strategic work and thinking. And in UX, I really love using OpenAI because I'm able to do this, interrogate insights and information, and keep and even visualize it in meaningful ways now with a lot of the new updates. So Claude has recognized that what people are using their platform for isn't really the stuff that OpenAI or even Gemini are competing with their images and their conversational, their LLM, and their deep research stuff. Even though they have released some deep research stuff, they've recognized that that's not their strongest point. Their strong point, going all the way back to when they first released, has always been code. So with the new 3.7 update, they have really refined that ability, or that coding output that when you go from text to code. Starting to ramble a bit there, but essentially they're Sonnet 3.7. So again, accuracy, strength, way up there in comparison to the other ones. Now with some of their agentic tool use, way up there compared to the others that are out there. And what they've also done is made some updates to Claude Code as well. So that whole experience from chat to generating code to editing the products that you may have in markets such as GitHub and other things is now it looks like it's going to be a really, really awesome experience.
Fantastic. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how more people use it, and even tools that, as you mentioned, there's tools that are using Claude because it was the best, and still is the best kind of coding tool. So Bolt underneath the hood is using Claude, and the great thing about Bolt has also made their stuff open source. Now, when I say open source, it's not all the latest stuff, but they made their code base open source up until a certain point in time. I don't know how often they update it, but they let the community then work with it to build their own tools. And obviously, Bolt being a commercial entity can't just keep running with all the open source stuff. They'd have to commercialize. So people have taken that on and maybe make it so that you can choose Gemini. You can choose like GPT 4.0, 4.1, etc. for all of the reasoning and stuff there. So yeah, but really interesting stuff. Like I said at the start, there's so much choice there for consumers. This is just a great thing.
We'll talk about that in a moment. Quick pause. My wife has just called me. She was at the doctor's, so I need to take this call quickly. Can you talk about the next thing? I'll turn my video off. Do you have more news items? You're on mute.
Sorry, I have a few more. For how long?
Yeah. No. Like, it'll be a quick call. I just got to call it back just in case it's bad news.
Okay. Just give me. Let me. I'll grab the screen.
That's right. Just keep doing what we're doing. I'm just going to tell you I'll put on mute. So you won't see me. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Go ahead.
Cool.
All right. Yeah. Cool. 3, 2, 1. So another thing that we wanted to highlight was this thing that Meta is doing. So unlike some of the other providers out there, that they will reuse different kind of models. So with Azure, you can actually use OpenAI through there because they have access to the same models. Owning half of the company or investing, up billions of dollars into it makes sense. And it means that you can do things like having OpenAI-like features, but within the confines of the country that you're in, which is important for some business applications. Meta, on the other hand, whilst they've developed their Llama Llama models, they're also looking to create this standalone AI app. And as you can see here from this CNBC article, and Mark Zuckerberg has been doing the rounds with some interviews, so been really interesting to see and get a glimpse as to the future of AI that he sees there. So you can have a read of this article, but yeah, they're saying that Meta AI had roughly 700 million active users, and that was up from 600 million in December. So it's going to be interesting to see how all of the titans come together in that regard. So Grok, obviously you've got what you can do with Twitter, which I do find interesting, just given that they've got all that access to the Twitter data. You can do research pieces that are just much harder to do unless you have the Twitter API, and even then it's quite expensive, but using it within Grok to conduct research on sentiment during certain periods of time all that fun stuff is definitely possible there. But yeah, interesting to see that Meta is now adding themselves into the mix as well. What do you think, Chris?
That's good. I'm glad that they're doing this. It's like, I mean, we talk about how great open source tools are out there, and the fact that they're not just focusing on that, that sort of behind the scenes open source tooling. Like Meta is putting stuff in front of consumers to show what's possible, to show what you can do, and also be able to play and tinker with things in a more meaningful way. As much as I'm not a not a Meta fan, I'm still glad that they're pushing this open source way of working in with tools like this. So I'm pro this type of action that they're taking, and it puts more pressure on like the big players to do better and bigger things, particularly with some other supposed DeepSeek R2, rumors that are spreading about the next level of DeepSeek. This type of stuff puts more pressure on people who are forcing us to pay big bucks to do better things.
Absolutely. I had a few other like news things, but I think they're kind of minor. Was there anything else that you wanted to add here before we get into like the hands-on kind of stuff and the course?
I'll do a couple of quick ones. Let me take back the presentation.
And then let's jump into the
Yeah, really high level. We've got Amazon launching Nova Premiere, so another capable, very, very, very capable AI model. Just another big one to add into the mix there. So definitely check that out. To process text and images and video, but not yet audio, which is interesting. So that's going to be available in the Amazon Bedrock, the company's AI model development platform. So great for businesses looking to explore how they develop new things in the AI space. Amazon really trying to keep their relevance in the market. Interesting one here. I've been tinkering around with Manus. I kind of enjoy Manus. It's really easy to do a lot of things. But
I feel like they've had not much news out since like they made big waves and stuff, and then after that it's like, oh, people saw that there's different models underneath, and we had that episode where we were talking about Klein being one of the major models, being the orchestrator underneath, and there's been other versions of people creating tools like Manus, but yeah, we haven't really heard much about Manus, but they've been chugging away, it seems.
They've been chugging away. They've been staying very relevant, and they've been growing, which is great. So I think people have found it is actually quite a powerful tool, and you're getting a lot of really strong outcomes from it. I think the biggest issue right now is price. They need to do something about that pricing point. But yeah, so adding that pressure, as you've just rightfully highlighted, is I think it's pronounced Suna. So Suna AI is releasing a open source pretty much version of Manus. I don't think they're going to have the level of agent availability, and they don't have the level of I guess there's the people who are contributing to the development of Manus in the background. But this is essentially a fully open source AGI agent capable platform. That be, you have to do a bit of a tinkering and setup to be able to manage and work it yourself. So there's a couple of articles out here. We'll share these in our on the show notes around how you can download this, install it, and have a play. Albeit, I'd be cautious around it. It is obviously, because it is open source and you are installing this stuff onto your own system, be very wary of the safety and security of your data, as always when playing with these types of tools.
It's speaking of this kind of stuff, because the barrier is lowered and people can just do things and install. I think they need to take one big step back and actually ask AI or watch videos just to see like what are the things that you need to have in place. So many developers, for example, would have some sort of like development environment on their computer to be able to do this. They wouldn't just install it on the same, like even having like just a virtual server where it's kind of air gapped and can't affect other things on the machine. Whether that is something that you just access through a proper server like Amazon or Azure or GCP for Google, or even just like doing it on your own machine, like being able to just do things in a test environment. And then it speaks to like when people are vibe coding their way through things, that's fine until it comes to the things like, so for example, my brother, he's a nurse, but he started getting into this kind of stuff and built out some really cool things. And then I took a look at it and it's like, great, okay, so where's so you've got things connected with the database, cool. but it's not updating, it's not populating it because there was no authorization on there. So he's getting stuff being seen in the screen, but it's not actually updating a database, even though it's being connected. And it's just those little things. And it turns out he's gone further down one way. I'm going to try to salvage the work for him. But he's gone down so far that trying to add the things that were necessary after the fact is actually a lot harder. So there is this need to just kind of step back. It's called a prototype, but when you actually want to get something out there, the steps that you need to take to build things properly, it's worthwhile having a look at. And we might be able to help out there if people are interested in, hey, how do I get started with bolts and how do I do these sorts of things? Feel free to reach out.
Hold that
Juno.
thought, because I think we will look back to that because it's a very interesting topic, particularly around types of tools that we'd use and why. It's a big question to ask. In terms of some other quick fire, so Juno, one of my favorite UX research tools. I'm using it for quite a few projects that I've been working on over the last year or so. So they just had a big update. They unlocked some new funding as well. So if you're interested in doing some rapid research utilizing AI with engaging with real people, how they now present the outcomes and data has been upgraded. I don't have some screenshots here because that would give away information in data set. But essentially now they've got more graphs and tables around specific things that you can interrogate conversations that have been had. What are keywords and trends? What do these trends and keywords actually mean in terms of decisions and ideas that you should create? And they've even released some new tiers of pricing as well. So previously, there was no free tier. You couldn't do any sort of low-key testing. Now they've got a free tier, so you can do 30 interviews per month, which is quite substantial even for a small research project. So very worth jumping in and having a play around if you haven't seen or heard about this already. And then you got the free tier, the paid tier, which I use quite a lot as well. So definitely check that out. Very, very cool.
Yeah, and the founder, I think Michelle, it was, met her at a few months ago, Gemini Labs event. And Chris, you and I, we're going to be going to the next one, which is March. Oh, sorry, March. It's next year. It's I think it was like not the 8th of May. Maybe it was the 8th of May. I didn't realize it says Saturday, the 8th of May.
Ooh, that's next week.
Yeah. We're gonna have to take a look. I thought it was like during a weekday. I've agreed. I said that, hey, we would go in and film and stuff like that. Saturday. Let's see.
Let's look at that.
Yeah. Yep.
Last one on my part before we jump into something a little more serious. So interestingly, so LM Arena. You know LM Arena? They obviously do a lot of the AI LLM comparisons in terms of which one's the best for what reason and why. They've been accused of manipulation, of allowing certain LLMs or AI platforms to game the system. So there was a study that was done over the last couple months, and they tested 27 models and variations of chatbots, and they found that the data didn't really align with what the actual tool was outputting in specific scenarios. So they think that they're allowing these AI tools to, I guess, do things in certain ways with specific queries. Kind of like if you remember what happened with Audi and Volkswagen, how they were gaming the system by doing certain things to their cars in certain conditions. So it looks like that they've been allowing these AI tools to do the same thing, therefore making them appear better than they actually are. So then they're favoring it. They don't know how, or they don't know why, or if there's any benefits from a costing perspective. Are they getting paid to do this? But it's definitely put them in hot water, as the title says there, and people questioning now the validity of the insights are there, which is not a good thing, particularly when we're trying to we use and rely on these tools to make decisions on what we think is the best one, right?
The one that I go to, if you want to just type in a new tab, Artificial Analysis. They're an Aussie company, so let's give them a plug. But just Artificial Analysis, I can't remember what it is, but just Google it. They are Sydney based, and they've been featured in many prominent kind of AI broadcasters and people speaking up online, and so they do model ratings as well. And as far as I'm aware of, they haven't had any kind of controversies like this. So if you're looking for something different, definitely worth checking them out. Though no doubt you've probably heard of them already.
Yeah, is that the one with what's the one with the human ranking as well, where people actually rate the outcomes on the AI models?
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. It is tip of my tongue. I
I'm
cannot remember. If only
I'm
there
in
was
the
like an
exact same boat.
AI to help us out.
I looked it up, but it's not coming up with it.
Did you type in AI human ranking as well?
Yeah, I
Uh,
did.
no, I think it was Chatbot Arena, man. I think
Chatbot
Chatbot
Arena.
Arena.
It is Chatbot. That's what I thought.
Yeah. Yeah, there's LM, the one that you had before. Then Chatbot Arena is the one that has a human ranking kind of system as well. Which, if you think about it, like to you, what might be a hallucination, for example, because it didn't quite write the story or the marketing piece, that you like, but then someone else sees that piece and
And
it's
they
right for them. It's like, oh yeah, this is good, depending on what they're after. So humans are just vastly subjective. So anyway.
very much so. And actually talking about that subjectivity is exactly what I wanted to talk about next. Is around that choice, like what LLMs are you using for and why? I think like going off that query you just said, a good example I see a lot is people love using Claude for a lot of their general discussion points because they actually like I don't know if the simplicity is the right word. They like the way that the outcomes are structured, whereas I actually don't like Claude's output when it comes to general conversations, research, and ideation. I much prefer whether it's Perplexity or OpenAI's ChatGPT, whether it's 04, 4.5, particularly for research and ideation, and even O3 if I want to do more deeper stuff. I prefer their outputs, maybe because of the richer content. I'm not so fussed about it being humanized. I want detail and insights. I find that
Yeah.
one more. So there's a really good example where I kind of clash with what a lot of other people think about in terms of what they want.
No, that's interesting. In terms of tools I'm using, I mean, obviously still a lot of ChatGPT. I use Claude, but more so through Bolt and building things. And then what I've been doing a lot of, and just I need to get it into a state where I can actually share a screen on this with just some dummy data. I'll make a fake user for it, but building my own CRM. And it's a 4-in-1 system, and what it is, there'll soon be a 5-in-1 because I'll be emailing through it as well. But imagine that I've created a system that is part like Zoho, HubSpot CRM. It's part chatbot because it can speak to everything that's in there. It's a workflow tool, just like Jira is, and I used to use a lot of Jira. And then I'm adding news features and stuff in there, and just the ability for me to kind of just like manage Google Notes, for example, and just every note, whether it's newsletters, it's things for this. And I know we've got a shared Google Drive just because that's how that has to work. But everything else that I've done where I would normally use Google Notes for things, I've got my own CRM that's a similar kind of experience, but just powered by AI. So I use that a lot day to day just because I don't want to have to jump to different screens. And because I know how to build these things, I can create that. And I've even had clients like wanting to have some similar type experience for their stuff. But the thing that I work on the most is Sike, the revamped version of Sike, which you'll see on screen. And for many people, this is the first time that they're seeing it. They're used to the white the old version. When I say old, it's 2 years old. Arturo and us, we created it back in 2023, if you believe it, right? The old version of Psych. But now we've got this one where the main thing is the research area, what used to be called knowledge modules. And you can see here, the user can create a project. They can put those projects into folders. Within a project, they can add documents, they can add little notes for dreams and stuff like that, add other users for permissioning, and then use the AI assistant and see all just like ChatGPT.
I
So
love the
similar kind of
sleekness.
experience. Sorry, what was that?
It's looking a lot sleeker. It's looking.
Yeah, man. No, and here's the thing. I'm not a designer, folks, but imagine if I was. Imagine if I took a course from a guy named Chris and his mate Matt. Just how much better this kind of stuff would be. But the point is that I can, talk to the documents that are here, ask questions, etc., like that. But even better, and the experience, just because I can, take the code that Arturo's written and take it a whole lot further. Be able to create these agentic workflows where, let's just pull up a previous one. Here's a little mini test that, this one here has been tasked with looking at a couple of documents. I can't remember which one it is. That's something for me to add, just the ability that it's when it's looking at stuff that it's going to, highlight just straight away what it is that it's actually clicking on. So let's just get it to look at this one, for example. This one is using like other documents as well. I think it's in here. It's related to Psych, but you can get the AI to output these agentic workflows, which I can copy individual results out of. I can save these workflows. I can copy them, repeat them. I can copy all the outputs, but just imagine for grants, imagine for marketing, and all you're doing is just selecting new documents that are going to feed into it. And then you just click run, and then the process gives you an output. You quickly read it and you go, yep, that's good. For grant writers, for people that are doing repetitive kind of workflows, we've added all that. And then, just because we can create this stuff, it's like, what comes out of our minds as well as what users are demanding. They want to be able to do things like being able to create business reports and stories and just creative things. So
in the same manner as well, in the same way, like repeating those in a structure format.
Exactly. So imagine that you have a tool rather than having to have multiple chat threads or just the one giant chat thread in ChatGPT. You can do stuff like this, where here's the full content of something that I'm playing around with writing. These are 3 chapters or 3 sections, as you call it. But then within each section, I can either bring in the different agent outputs that I saw before. So these are all the different agent examples of work that I'm doing. I can copy them in here, or I can just use AI with some sliders or with some writing style examples, get it to generate content that you see on screen here that I can copy out. It goes into the story. If I want to edit it, I can just edit it here. That's what goes into the story. But just the point is, it's around all of these just faster, quicker, streamlined workflows that used to require jumping around to different apps. Don't have to. This is the kind of stuff that we've got for Psych. A lot of people, these are generic kind of things, but because we can create bespoke features, models, all that kind of stuff, the sky's the limit. So that's a big focus of mine, as well as just using my own CRM that I've built, because we're in a world where you can do that.
And it's an interesting thing, like, this is why the rise of tools like Manus and Suna, which I just realized is anus backward, are popping up here and there, because it's that simplicity of having that one system that can do everything the other LLMs just do as well, but also fit within your working style and your workflows that you're conducting, right?
That's it. And I think Suna didn't, they had to have that name because after Manus came out, there was a model that came out that improved on Manus, and they just took off the M. So I think Suna's got like, we have to do this way. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. It's like interesting if we think about some of the stuff that I'm using. Again, I'm similar to yourself, very much in that OpenAI space. Heavily use that for, particularly because I love the project folders that you can now create. So if I get a certain output, I can make sure those outputs are something I can continually refer to if I like what happened to it. Or I can add my files into it. And so now I've got these little project folders, very similar to what you are able to do with Sike AI, only now you've added this extra L level to it where you can start doing agentic workflows off of the back of that research, those documents, the output that the AI has generated, which you can't do in the other platform. So it's a very nice way to bring all those things together to suit, and you can customize it to suit the way that you work.
Whereas it's crazy.
Yeah,
it's crazy what you can do now. Like before, it used to be like, if you didn't like the way Salesforce worked, but everyone in the company had to use Salesforce, you were stuck with it. But imagine that in future, and I think it's going to be the up and comers that will do this more, but you'll be able to redesign how you actually work with the tools, rather than having to like make the tools work for you rather than the other way around. But exactly. Yeah, interesting stuff. I'll start my screen share there. Did you have something you wanted to show?
No, that's about it for me. Yeah, I think that was a very good show. Talked about some good things. A lot of stuff that's coming to market. A lot of stuff that people can start to explore. We'll put some extra links in the show notes. I've got to pack myself up and make way to Melbourne. I've got a wedding to attend this weekend. So yeah, on that note, mate.
Bye.
Bye. GG.
Board buzzing, worldwide, tech trends blazing, digital fire, AI, rising to the sky, digital world, we reaching high.